line is what allows your body to start dropping the weight quickly and consistently, right? It's interesting how often people will just make a small exception, small substitution, and it will for several days. Now, that said, we always tell people don't worry about it. It'll come back off fast. But if you're one that's frustrated that your weight is stalled for a week or two, you can look back and see, oh, and we can look at the chart without even asking you. We can look at your chart and say, look at, you still dropped, but you spiked here because you ate. And we don't have to ask you to know that you ate because those spikes only happen when you eat. So there will be ebbs and flows. You might bump a pound or a half a pound if you're staying strictly on plan, but you will continue to trend down at different rates. Some weeks will be steeper drops than others, but really the only way to keep seeing those trend lines that you like is to not make those exceptions. And when you do make those exceptions, then just recognize that that was the reason for the stall. Why can't we teach you to do it with food? Well, we can, but what I love about this program is that we take you down to a new normal before we teach you to do with food. Most people that are learning these new lifestyle shifts that we're trying to do, because we are trying to do more than just drop you quickly for, 2 weeks for your Hawaiian vacation, right? We're trying to give you this sustainable lifestyle that's going to keep you there, right? Not just drop you and send you right back up. So what we do with OptiFast is we give you this complete reset. And OptiFast purposefully limits the flavors because they have found through their research that narrowing the stimuli is what brings success with this program. It gets rid of your cravings faster. It just totally resets your palate so that when you do transition back to food, you're no longer craving the Oreos all the time. It's a lot easier to make a lifestyle change when you've had a complete reset first. Now, if you're trying to lose weight on food, most of you will recognize that it's like a pound down and then 2 pounds up and then 2 pounds down and then 1 pound up and then 3 pounds down and then 2 pounds up. And that's so much easier to learn this lifestyle shift when you're down at a weight that you want to maintain than when you're trying to do this really tedious drop one by one. So the OptiFast drops you and resets you so that then we can teach you these lifetime skills of how to eat, how to exercise, how to think, how to approach life and stress and food and all of these things. And you can practice with that at a lower level where you're going to be healthier too. So hopefully that answers a lot of these frequently asked questions and kind of gives you a new perspective. We understand that there's going to be birthday parties and vacations and all of these things in the middle of your OptiFast program, and we are supportive of you needing to take breaks. We encourage you to only take breaks that you plan with the doctor just for that 3-month aggressive period, and then he can help you navigate how to take those breaks without losing all your progress. So the more consistent you are, the quicker your cravings will decrease, the quicker you will reset on all of these levels, and the more quickly you'll be successful. However, wherever you're at, whatever week you've had, we will work with you every step of the way. Okay, so that was kind of a long description of the OptiFast. Let's move on really quick. What does it take from us and from you? From you, it's really just a commitment game. And I think that's commitment to keeping your appointments. We're not going to be mad or shame you if you have to cancel. We get that life happens. But if you really want to see the success, being consistent with coming into those appointments makes such a big difference. We see it over and over and over again. The patients that are the most successful are the ones that are compliant with all of the touch points that we offer. And we don't offer those touch points for us. We offer them because every time you talk to one of us, every time you listen to a webinar, every time you listen to something else that inspires you to be healthy and to make healthy choices, every single time you do that, it's solidifying those new pathways in your brain that make it easier to make the long-term choices that will lead you to a new lifestyle. So really, and the commitment is not just keeping the appointments, coming to the webinars, committing to all of that. It's also committing to just starting again every time you make a choice that you're not proud of, every time you fall off the wagon, so to speak, every time you go off plan, you're committing to yourself that you're going to come back in and reset and try again. And we all do that. And so there's never any shame. There's never any guilt. It's just a commitment to keep trying, and we'll get you there. What's our commitment to you? Well, this is what our program offers. And again, we're not a one-stop shop of just come in, drop the weight, and then we send you on your way. We're trying to establish a lifetime of health where you can get rid of some of these chronic diseases you never thought possible. You can get rid of some of the pain you never thought possible. We want you to have a different, better, happier, more fulfilling quality of life than you've ever had. The way we do that is we monitor you medically. You know that we look at your lab reports, we look at your EKGs, we watch your medications, we look at your blood pressures. We look at all of those things frequently to keep you safe and to make sure that your body is responding the way that it needs to, and that it's responding safely. We've talked about the total meal replacement as our optimal our choice for how we do this, although we will do a variety of different ways for people that want that. Nutrition and exercise education. We do personal training sessions. We talk extensively at our visits about nutrition. We talk about that in our webinars. We're teaching you new skills, new habits, and new ways of looking at things, and possibly new facts, hopefully, that you haven't heard before, and that change the way that you think. And then the last piece really is behavior modification. And I think this is the piece that most places will miss. But it is probably the most important part of what we do, because again, you can do anything. You can run a sprint. Anybody can run a sprint, right? You make it happen, you do the hard work, but it's the long-term changing the way we think and behave that's going to give us the long-term maintenance and success. And so that is a huge part of what we do. And it's a huge part of why we're successful with people long-term. And I guess I would add to this chart as well that it's also the support. You need the support from us, from healthcare professionals, from this series, and also from mentors. And we've just started a new mentor program. So we're so excited about that, having peer-to-peer mentors, people that have been through the program and know how to help and support you. Every touch point that you can possibly take advantage of will help you succeed. And I encourage you to do that. I also want to just take a second to mention that we're going to start our first group session. Many of you have said you'd be interested in that. So we hope you'll join us. Date pending, I'll announce that next week, but it will be either the end of March or beginning of April that we will announce our first group session, and hope many of you will come and find support from meeting together and discussing our results and our needs and our struggles together. I love this quote at the bottom from an OptiFast patient who has lost 168 pounds and maintained it. I just hope that that's really hopeful to those of you who feel like you still have a long way to go. Sometimes it's really hard when you see changes really quickly in the beginning, but then you get to the middle and it's a struggle because you see how far you still want to go. And I just want you to know that on this program, it is possible to lose that much weight if that's what you need to lose. Certainly not everybody needs to lose that much, but whatever your goal is, we have the means, the education, the experience to get you where you want to go. Okay, so let's talk for just a second about this new workbook. I have worked with my staff, put in a lot of hours to bring this to you. I hope that it's a valuable resource. I want to just talk to you for a second about how to use it and how to make it most effective. I apologize. My goal was to have everybody have it in hand by tonight. We didn't quite make that deadline. As you know, the editing process, the printing process always takes a little bit longer than you think it's going to, but it is finished. It is being printed now. And so we're hoping in the next week or two, every patient that comes in for a visit, we can hand it to you so that you have it ready for the next webinar. And those of you who are out of the area, we can get one sent to you. If you are attending our webinars as a guest and not as a ShieldMed patient, we're so glad that you're here. Please reach out to me by email and we can talk about getting you a copy of the workbook as well. We'll just charge you the minimal cost for the book itself. And we hope that you'll continue to join us on these webinars. So a few notes about how to be successful with this. I think this is really important that we approach this in the right way so that it's a help to us and not a hindrance. The first one is obvious, just attend as often as you can. Again, the touch points, the amount of times that you hear these messages over and over and over again will solidify these pathways in your brain that are going to change the way you think and the way that you behave and act. Write things down. And, I just want to take a second to tell you two reasons why it's important to write. The more you write, and this is research from journaling, all kinds of just brain research that I've heard over the years. If you take it from what's in your head and you write it on paper, it solidifies it for you in new ways that you can't just keep it in your head. And what I have found is that if I have a brilliant idea or an insight or a thought that pops into my mind that's just an inspiration to me, if I don't write it down, it's usually gone really quickly. I don't know if anybody else has ever had that experience where you just have this brilliant idea and you're like, okay, I can't forget this. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, what was it again? Or how did it go in my head? I kind of have a vague remembrance of it, but it's not quite there anymore. The vision of it isn't quite there anymore. So if you will take a second and write down the thoughts as they come to you, then you'll be able to remember them, and you'll be able to look back on them when you're struggling. That has happened for me so many times in different areas of my life, not just health. But if I have a moment of inspiration in parenting or in my spiritual journey or any of those things, and I'll write it down, I'll go back on those hard days where I don't see the light and I'm just really struggling, and I'll see what I wrote down before when I was feeling inspired, and it motivates me. It gives me that new perspective again, and I know that that can work here. So that is part of the reason I wanted you to have something physical to write on, is so that when you inevitably hit those challenging times where you don't want to keep going, you can go back and read the things that you wrote when you felt inspired, and it can continue to inspire you. I've also found that the act of writing will bring more inspiration. So if you'll write down what you're getting, then you'll get more. I really believe that. So that's the next point. I would say don't feel the need to fill every space. This one is probably the most important to me. We have given you a lot of introspective questions through this workbook. And then in addition to that, we've given you a reflection page at the end of every week's lesson. And it includes, there's a challenge at the end of every week, there's a reflection page, and then there's a half a page to a page where you can just take notes. Now, I want to be very clear about this. You do not always need an answer for every question. And some of the questions will even overlap. Our reflection section is the same every week. And sometimes a question that we ask in that week's content may overlap a little bit for you. And you'll be like, well, how can I answer that question twice? Right? If you get anxious over the answers that you don't have yet, it will block the inspiration that you do have. So if you don't have an answer, then skip it and move on. If you don't have any notes to write, then skip it. If the inspiration that you get in the moment has nothing to do with the questions, write it down in the notes and move on. Please don't feel pressure or stress to fill in every blank, because it will block the inspiration that is coming, the thoughts that you are having that are going to be effective for you. Use the notes section. We talked about that. Embrace repetition. Just know week to week, there will sometimes be similar topics covered, maybe even similar questions, similar goal setting. That's on purpose, because sometimes we have to hear it over and over and again. That said, the content is unique every week, so don't feel like you're coming to hear the same webinar every week. But just know that if you hear something week to week that you think, well, we covered that already, that's on purpose. So embrace that. Know that that's part of how we solidify those pathways in our brain. Keep this webinar booklet close when you get it. I know you don't have it yet, but this week, even if you've printed out this PDF, keep it open on your counter, or if you're like me and hate stuff on your counter because clutter is awful, keep it next to your bed, in a bedside table, somewhere where it's easy to access. So as you go about your week and you're thinking about the things that you learned and you're working on the things with Dr. Schill that he's talked about, as you have moments where you realize that you've made a choice that you're proud of, or where a new insight occurs to you because of a choice that you made or didn't make, it's close by. You can write down in those notes. And the hope is, and Dr. Schill's hope as well, is that you'll take what you've learned and written down in these webinars and you'll bring it with you to your office visits and talk to him about the things that you're learning and the questions that you still have. Because really these two things are meant to work together. And so please utilize it that way. And then enjoy this process. You're changing and you're growing, and it's going to be hard, but it's also going to be exhilarating and exciting and fun as you see the ways that you grow and change through this process. Don't stress over it. If you're not where you want to be yet, it's okay. this is going to be an entire experiment over the course of this year and beyond of making mistakes and learning from them and making new choices as a result of those learning experiences. And that's okay, that it's a gradual process. That's part of what we talked about with this reset. If we can get you down quickly and reset you, then we give you this room to grow at a different place where you feel healthier and feel in a place where you have more energy to make some of those changes. Okay, so let's start out by trying it. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Um, well, no, I'm going to give you 2 minutes actually, because we've got to do this survey still, which is going to be about 5 minutes next. I want you to just think about these three questions. And please, again, remember what we just talked about. If you don't have an immediate answer, don't feel pressure to write it down in these 2 minutes. But if something pops into your head as you read these three questions, then quick, jot it down on your PDF. And if you want to share it in the comments, I'd love to hear it. And I know others on tonight would also feel inspired by it. So go ahead and take just a minute to ponder these three questions, and then we'll come back here in just a minute. All the way to nothing but OptiFast for 3 months because they don't want to give up food. And they understand or accept, hopefully, that that will mean that their progress will be slower, but that's okay because they can own that because they're not willing to make that large of a sacrifice. That's okay. And I don't mean to say that in a shameful way at all. I just mean in order to be successful with this, owning and understanding what you are and aren't willing to sacrifice is really helpful to your progress, because then if you admit to that, then you can say, okay, well, then I'm okay with this path that I've chosen because I've chosen it. So think about that and talk to Dr. Schill about that. You know what? It turns out I'm struggling because I'm really not willing to make this sacrifice. Or asking this question can do the opposite, right? You know what? This goal is so important to me that it is worth a short-term sacrifice. And then understanding that about yourself can propel you forward and kind of take the victimization out of the process. Okay, well, I'm not a victim anymore because I'm choosing this, right? So either way, it's empowering. And it doesn't really matter what the end result is because it helps you accept whatever that end result is. Okay. Now, hopefully you have all printed this out. Don't use this. This is just a screenshot of the PDF, the first page of the PDF. The PDF itself is 4 pages, 10 sections, 5 questions each. I know that sounds daunting, but the truth is this is a 3-2-1 rating. It shouldn't be anything that you have to think extra hard about. So you should be able to do this in 5 minutes or less if you haven't already done it. The idea here is that we're rating 3 being a high level, 1 being a low level. And don't stack the deck here. This is just a totally honest assessment, and it doesn't matter what you score. This helps you and us understand where you're at, both in your education of these topics, and also where you're at behaviorally. Because if we know this, and if you know this, then again, it's empowering to then be able to address those things. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. If you don't have it, just again scroll up. It's right here in the comments, the PDF. You can fill it out really quickly. If you wouldn't mind just dropping in the comments when you're done, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes, but I'm going to watch the comments to see when most people are wrapping up. And we'll just wrap up the webinar at that point by discussing a little bit of the results and sending you off with a final encouraging message. So go ahead and get started on that right away. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, great job, everyone. Now, if you haven't had a chance to finish it all the way, don't worry. Just take a few minutes after the webinar ends or sometime this week and finish it up. As you can see on the last page, you bring all your totals forward and it tells you how to score them. If you're scoring between 13 and 15 in any category, then please let me know so you can come teach the webinars, because I don't think I even scored that high. So you're in pretty good shape. If you're scoring really low, then great. What a fun year we're going to have learning all of these things together. So there is no shame either way. It's just a great tool to help you know where you want to focus your education and behavioral efforts. So take just a minute. In your PDF that I sent out tonight, the last two questions for the day were this. Circle on your assessment, or right here in the blank, which category of those 10 categories represents your greatest knowledge deficit. Where do you want to learn the most? Where were you surprised? Oh man, I really don't know as much as I thought I did about this, or I definitely want to learn more about this. Just go ahead and write that down. Drop it in the comments if you'd like to. And then take just a second. This one's a little bit harder. Which category represents your greatest behavioral need? A place where you want to modify your behavior the most. Sometimes those overlap and sometimes they don't. For example, eating might not be my problem, but I don't know a lot about nutrition labels. And so I want to learn more about that. But behaviorally, maybe I just really struggle to get out and exercise because of my time constraints. So those really are two separate things, what we need to learn more about, what we need to change our behavior on the most. So take just a second as we're wrapping up and think about those things. Our challenge of the week, I'm going to just skip ahead to that really quick. We're going to keep it really simple for the first week. Will you write down, either right now or if you need a little bit of time to think about it, what you wrote down for that behavioral challenge? And then when you bring it with you to your next appointment with Dr. Schill and talk to him about what you feel like your biggest behavioral struggle is, because that is what we're here for. Yes, we're here to educate you. Yes, we're here to monitor your lab values, but our whole purpose of our program is to help you modify those things in your lifestyle that are holding you back from maintaining a long-term change. And with that, I just want to wrap up with this idea. Every change that we're looking to make, we want it to be attainable, meaning we can make it happen. It's within our grasp. We want it to be sustainable, something that's not just a sprint that we can actually enjoy and maintain through our lifestyle, throughout our life, right? And we also want it to be enjoyable. Honestly, it will not be sustainable if it doesn't become something that we enjoy. I shared this picture as an example because I feel like a couple of years ago, this is something that Dr. Schill would never have thought that he could enjoy, but because it has become a sustainable part of his lifestyle, it's one of his favorite parts of his life now. And we can help you get to that point where it's not a chore anymore. It's not something that you dread. It's not eating lettuce at every meal and wishing you could have chocolate cake. We're looking at attainable, sustainable, and enjoyable changes that you can maintain the rest of your life. You are going to love the life that you end up with at the end of this program if you will commit to sticking with us and putting the effort in to take advantage of all the touch points that we offer. I promise you that if you will attend this webinar series and your doctor's appointments regularly, you will find yourself changed by the end of this year. I can guarantee that. And we are so excited to be working with you in that process. I'm going to leave just a few minutes at the end. We had some great feedback from a patient a few weeks ago that these webinars end so abruptly. There's no chance to really reflect. Certainly, if you need to jump off early at this point, you can. But I encourage you, whenever you have the time and can, take a few minutes at the end of this webinar and answer these 3 questions. Again, let me emphasize, if you don't have an answer for it, don't let it hold you back. Don't stress over it. Just write down the things that come to your mind as your takeaway points, maybe some questions that you still have that you want to bring up with Dr. Schill next time you're at an appointment. And what did you feel inspired to change? Every week might not bring an inspiration to change. Some weeks you might be struggling. Some weeks there may not have been a lot of points that stuck out to you. But if something stuck out and jumped out at you tonight, write it down here so that you remember it. So I'm going to go ahead and give you just a few minutes for reflection. If you need to jump off, go ahead. But I'll wrap back up in just about 2 minutes and let you just think for a minute until then. Oh, sorry. While we're doing the reflection, I'm going to answer this question too. I'm sorry, Deirdre. I just am seeing this. Yes. So No, don't add all the totals together because the purpose is you want to know where your strengths and weaknesses are. So you're going to total each individual section, and then you're going to bring them forward there at the end. If you'll notice on that last page of the survey, it gives you the place where you can bring all 10 totals forward. And those totals are going to look different in every category. So that's an easy place for you to see where your deficits are, where you can see, okay, this is where I need to learn more. This is where I need to modify my behavior the most. And the difference between learning more and modifying your behavior, that's going to be your interpretation. There's no number system that's going to tell you which ones are learning needs and which ones are behavior modification needs. This is just really more up to you. This is just where my knowledge is weak. This is where my behavior is weak, if that makes sense. And if you have any great insights for tonight that you'd be willing to share, please do. We'd love to see your insights in the comments. And part of what makes these webinars so great is the interaction that you have with each other and the ways that you can feel strengthened by each other. So as always, and we'll continue to encourage this, please continue to drop your comments if you have them. All right, everybody. Man, we're so grateful that you've joined us tonight. Thank you for your participation. We hope that you found it valuable. We just want to leave you with this final thought that we always leave you with. Remember that wherever you're at on your journey, your future is bright. We will help you get there. We're so excited to continue to work together. Please join us next week. We're going to take a deep dive into our personal history and our relationships with food. It can feel a little scary, but we can make it a great experience together and learn so much about ourselves that can empower us moving forward. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next week.